We're live from New Delhi, watching the India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. Israel's Trade Union Federation calls for general strike on Monday after Gaza hostages found dead. Massive protests sweep Israel as frustration mounts over failure to secure a ceasefire deal. Huge political upheaval in Germany as nation's far-right alternative for Germany projected to win its first ever state election in country's post-war history. Heavy rain devastates southern India's Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Prime Minister Modi takes stock of the situation in a call to the chief ministers, assures all possible assistance. Big names continue to tumble at the US Open. Defending champion Coco Gauff joins the ever-growing surprise exit list, crashes out to Emma Navarro in a blizzard of mistakes. And in sports, India's Preethi wins bronze in 200-meter T35, becomes first ever Indian female athlete to win 2 medals in track and field event at the Paralympics or Olympics. Well, on to the details now. Israel is witnessing a national outage following recovery of bodies of 6 more captives from a tunnel in southern Gaza. Emotions were high on the streets as protesters chanted, "Now, now," demanding a ceasefire deal. Protesters, many clad in Israeli flags, descended on Tel Aviv, Jerusalem and other cities on Sunday, accusing PM Benjamin Netanyahu and his government of failing to save the remaining hostages. The Israel Defense Forces said earlier that the 6 bodies were found on Saturday in an underground tunnel in the Rafah area of southern Gaza. It added that all of them were murdered by Hamas terrorists in a number of shots at close range 48 to 72 hours previously. The deaths leave 101 Israeli and foreign captives still in Gaza, but around a third of these have known to have died, with the fate of others unknown. And the major union in Israel has also called for a one-day general strike on Monday. The head of Israel's Histadrut labor union vowed to halt the country's economy to pressure the government into reaching a deal to return Israeli hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza.
It is not a simple matter to shut down the economy, and you know how much responsibility I have shown in the last 11 months. No more. I call on the people of Israel to take to the streets, leave the workplaces. I call on all economic organizations in the state of Israel, everyone to join the strike. We must raise the cry of all hostages, or displaced, or dead. The state of Israel must be returned to normal.
Well, head of the labor union, Arnon Bar-David, called on all civilian workers to join the strike and said Ben Gurion Airport, Israel's main air transport hub, would be closed from 500 GMT or 10:30 IST. The Histadrut represents some 800,000 workers in areas such as healthcare, transportation and banking. The Histadrut's strike will be the first of its kind since Hamas's initial attack on Israel. And moving on, meanwhile, country's finance minister Bezalel Smotrich has asked the country's attorney general to submit an urgent request to courts to block the planned Monday's nationwide strike on Monday. Smotrich argued that the strike had no legal basis since it aimed to improperly influence significant policy decisions of politicians on issues related to state security. Meanwhile, the United Nations, in collaboration with Palestinian health authorities, began to vaccinate children in the Gaza Strip on Sunday. Earlier, Israel and Hamas agreed to brief pauses in their 11-month conflict to allow the campaign to go ahead. The campaign began in the areas of central Gaza and will move to other areas in the coming days. Fighting will pause for at least 8 hours on 3 consecutive days. WHO officials say at least 90% of the children need to be vaccinated twice, with 4 weeks between doses for the campaign to succeed. But it faces huge challenges in Gaza, which has been largely destroyed by the war. Moreover, several U.S. Democratic lawmakers also renewed calls for an Israeli Hamas ceasefire, while Republicans criticized the government for not giving stronger support to Israel. Democrats say a ceasefire must be reached immediately that allows all remaining hostages to be released, humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza, and an elusive and neglected long-term vision for peace and stability to become a reality. Republicans, on their part, urged President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris to finish the job against Hamas. Some others said Biden administration and Israel should hold Iran accountable for the fate of remaining hostages and put on the target list oil refineries in Iran if the hostages are not released. And for more, we have Anil Thomas joining us. Well, Anil, 3 hostages out of 6 killed in Gaza, including 1 Israeli American, had been expected to be released in the ceasefire deal, which is now into a tumult. And as Jake Sullivan said, that the next few days will be very critical. How grave is the situation, as Netanyahu also vowed for powerful, swift response to the execution?
Well, good morning, Lipakshi. Well, not much to choose for Benjamin Netanyahu and his government in this offensive against this conflict that's on between Israel and Hamas. Now, almost into its 11th month, and things don't seem to be, there is no light at the end of the horizon. There is a catch-22 situation that the Israeli Prime Minister is at this point of time, with the death of the 6 hostages that have taken place. The ceasefire or the deals to release the hostages not making much of a breakthrough. Is a position that leaves Benjamin Netanyahu with not much of elbow room to navigate in this chaos. And the widespread protests that's been seen across Israel and Tel Aviv in particular, with close to 7 lakh people on the street, clearly indicates that things are not looking easy for the Israeli Prime Minister, with voices of dissent within and outside the government very much rampant and increasing with passing of every day. So that leaves Benjamin Netanyahu with not much, but look at the negotiating table once again to head back for dialogue and look to keep the ceasefire talks alive, and also the release of hostages that are still in the control of Hamas.
Right. But also U.S. officials have voiced frustration in regard to resistance by Benjamin Netanyahu in reaching a deal, leading to occasionally tense conversations between them. And now protests from within Israel arising, including planned nationwide strike in Israel. How do you see the pressure from U.S. affecting the situation?
Well, there has been a talk by the U.S. Minister of State or the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin with the Minister of State for Defense Israel. Beyond that, in terms of words, in terms of rhetoric, not much of pen to paper when it comes to comments by the U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. But surely things not looking very much comfortable for Benjamin Netanyahu. Looking at the pressure that he faces even from within his own cabinet, the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has been time and again speaking about how things need to move forward, because this nationwide protest that we see, close to 7 lakhs people on the streets, 5 lakh in the capital Tel Aviv. This is the largest protest that we've seen, the first big unprecedented protest or tumultuous protest that we are seeing on the streets of Israel, post that October 7th attack. And we are almost heading towards, 12 months of this particular attack that took place on the 7th of October of 2023. And the release of hostage still very much primarily on the table when it comes to discussions. But I think not much of elbow room for either of the parties. The Israeli Prime Minister will have to take a quick call with the mounting pressure from outside. He doesn't have much of elbow room. He will have to give in. And I think it will be a matter of time before we head back to the negotiating table and look for, an amicable solutions before we lose more lives, especially the hostages that are being in the control of Hamas.
All right. Absolutely grave situation there. Thank you so much, Anil, for all that update.
Thank you.
And now updates on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia pounded Ukraine's capital of Kyiv with missiles early on Monday, with its mayor saying emergency services were sent to several districts following reports of damage and injuries from falling debris from the downed weapons. Ukraine's Air Force on social media said repeated launches of ballistic missiles targeted Kyiv, while city officials said air defense units were repelling the attacks. The attack came exactly a week after Moscow launched more than 200 missiles and drones on Ukraine, killing 7 people and striking energy facilities nationwide in what Kyiv called the conflict's most massive attack. And earlier, at least 47 people were injured on Sunday after a Russian missile strike hit a shopping mall and event complex in Ukraine's northeastern city of Kharkiv. The attack came amidst Russia's claims of thwarting a massive drone assault by Kyiv that targeted critical infrastructure, including power plants and an oil refinery. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded by urgently calling for Western allies to permit longer-range strikes to counter Russia's aggression.
Today, Russia has once again brutally attacked Kharkiv. As of now, nearly 50 people have been injured. Everyone is receiving the necessary assistance. Rescuers continue to clear the rubble as there are reports of people trapped beneath it. The targets were ordinary civilian structures, a shopping mall, a sports palace, and residential buildings.
Well, as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine continues its intimidating impact on the neighboring countries, Poland came out and opened to name Russia as imperialist and asked it to pay for losses in Ukraine. Polish President Andrzej Duda also asked Germany for reparations for Poland's loss in Second World War. The Polish president was speaking in a ceremony to mark the 85th anniversary of the Second World War in Berlin. That was one of the first places to be bombed by the German Nazis on the 1st of September 1939. Polish president tried to set a parallel between Germany of that time and Russia of the present period. He termed Russia as embodiment of imperialism and said Poland is making all efforts to defend itself.
Russian imperialism is born again. It is suffocating, taking freedom and lives, occupying land and destroying. It must be stopped and pay the price.
While remembering how Germans had attacked Poland and how the country was devastated, Germany owes Poland reparation amount that was not yet given. He asked Russia to pay for the losses of life and destruction to Ukraine.
For all the estimable material losses we had because of the war and the invasion, compensation is not only possible but due. Poland expects it, just as we expect, with the rest of the free world, that Russia will pay for its crimes in Ukraine.
Well, a beluga whale that was suspected of spying for Russia after being discovered in Norwegian waters 5 years ago has been found dead. The body of Valdemir, a combination of the Norwegian word for whale and the first name of Russian President Vladimir Putin, was spotted floating in the sea by a father and son fishing in southern Norway over the weekend. Valdemir was wearing a harness with what appeared to be a mount for a small camera when he was first found in 2019 near the island of Ingoya in Norway's north. The harness was stamped with equipment St. Petersburg in English. The whale was very interested in people and responded to hand signals, leading Norway's domestic intelligence agency to presume he had been held in captivity in Russia as part of a research program before crossing into Norwegian waters. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Law students take to streets against a reform plan of judiciary in Mexico. Investigations conclude that adverse weather was the primary cause of the helicopter crash that killed Iranian President and Foreign Minister Hussein. And we get you a unique tradition in El Salvador that will amuse you too, as it gives an adrenaline rush to the visitors. Welcome back. You're watching DT India News Now. Lepakshi Quran, and moving on. Huge political upheaval in Germany as nation's far-right Alternative for Germany projected to win its first ever state election in country's post-war history. Exit polls showed that Germany's far-right AfD won a landmark first regional vote on Sunday in the former East German state of Thuringia. AfD is projected to get 33.5% of the vote, well ahead of the Conservative Party Christian Democrats with 24.5%. In the neighbouring state of Saxony, the Conservatives led on 32%, just half a percentage point ahead of the AfD. The AfD is unlikely to come to power in either state because other parties have ruled out working with the far right to form a government. But the result is still a political earthquake, as it would represent the first time in Germany's post-World War II history that a far-right party has won a state election. If confirmed, it would also be a huge blow for Chancellor Scholz's Social Democrats and the other parties in his fractious coalition government, the Greens and the Liberal FDP. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called the results of 2 regional elections bitter and urged mainstream parties to form governments without right-wing extremists. Scholz, in a statement, said the results for the Alternative for Germany in Saxony and Thuringia are worrying. The German Chancellor blamed AfD for damaging the country. He added that the AfD is weakening the economy, dividing society and ruining Germany's reputation. Well, also, hundreds of people took part in a demonstration against the far-right Alternative for Germany. The protest was held in downtown Erfurt, the capital of the state of Thuringia, where one of the votes for the regional parliament took place on Sunday. Well, also, Germany's far right looks to have claimed its biggest electoral success since World War II, winning a regional vote in the east of the country on Sunday, according to an initial projection. The recent performances of far right political parties is a surge in European countries. Here's a report.
The far-right political parties have always existed. They constitute Europe's most influential political movement. The recent performance of some of these parties has reinforced this view that Europe is slowly but steadily headed towards the far right of the political spectrum, as shown by the mainstreaming of these parties in countries like Italy, Hungary, France, Germany, Spain, Austria, and the Netherlands. Although many scholars have widely analyzed the rise of right-wing populism in Europe, they have not yet reached to a consensus as to what exactly constitutes a far right. This could be one of the reasons that after a long period of slumber in European politics, the far right has gained momentum only in recent years. Today, with the rise of these parties, the ideas of excessive nationalism, authoritarianism, protectionism, and the politics of exclusion, which were once discarded, are slowly gaining ground. However, there's also a lesson to be learned. Even in places where far-right populists seize power and capture the state, democracy could prove resilient. Elections matter, and they could provide an opportunity to clip the wings of illiberal politicians and would-be autocrats, or indeed force them to compromise and, in some cases like the Meloni in Italy, move towards the centre. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, some updates on U.S. presidential polls now. Actor George Clooney said that U.S. President Joe Biden should be applauded and credited for his selfless act of letting go of power. Making his final comment about his call in July for Biden to drop his bid for re-election, Clooney told a press conference at the Venice Film Festival that his own plea would not be remembered in the long run. Clooney's New York Times op-ed in July came in response to Biden's debate with Republican former President Donald Trump. In the piece, Clooney wrote that Biden was no longer the same person who won the White House in 2020. He also expressed admiration for Biden and said he considered him a friend.
The person who should be applauded is the president who did the most selfless thing that anybody's done since George Washington, and that's true. And for someone to say, I think there's a better way forward, that's all the credit goes to him, and that's really the truth. And all the rest of it will be long gone and forgotten. And so I'm just very proud of where we are in the state of the world right now, which I think many people are surprised by, and I think we're all very excited for the future. And so that's, I think that's all I'll say on that. I think that's the smartest way.
Well, Emmanuel Macron will meet his predecessors and two senior politicians tipped as candidates to become the next prime minister on Monday, as the French president is close to announcing a new government leader, according to sources and media reports. Macron faces mounting pressure to resolve a prolonged political impasse following a snap election that resulted in a hung parliament. Cazeneuve, a former socialist who left the party over its alliance with the far left, is emerging as a leading contender for prime minister due to his appeal across the political spectrum. Bertrand, a conservative and regional president, is also under consideration, though less prominently. With political paralysis likely to persist, Macron is constrained by the constitution from calling another snap election until July next year. And in Azerbaijan's snap parliamentary election, Central Election Commission Chief Mazahir Penakov said President Ilham Aliyev's ruling party is poised to maintain its majority, securing 67 of the 125 seats based on 91% of the vote count. This result closely mirrors their previous tally of 69 seats, with turnout at 37.3% and over 2 million voters participating. The election is notable as the first since Azerbaijan's swift military offensive a year ago, which led to the recapture of Karabakh. This region had been under de facto Armenian control for 3 decades. Exit polls suggest that other seats will be filled by candidates who are formally independent but effectively support the government, reinforcing its dominance. And Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador celebrated Mexico's new status as the United States' leading trading partner on Sunday. During his final State of the Union address at Zocalo Square in Mexico City, López Obrador emphasized that Mexico's strengthened trade ties with the U.S. have bolstered the country's economic growth. The outgoing president, who will hand over power on the 1st of October, defended his controversial judicial reform proposal, which has generated tensions with the United States and spooked foreign investors. Meanwhile, law students from several Mexican universities rallied on Sunday against the government's plans to reform the judiciary. Students and professors marched along Mexico City's main streets, chanting slogans and waving banners defending the justice system's independence. A congressional commission approved the reform on Monday, paving the way for a final debate under the new Congress. The reform would see around 7,000 judges, magistrates and justices, including the Supreme Court, elected by popular vote, lower experience and age requirements, and a reduction in the size of the nation's top court. And a recent investigation into the helicopter crash that claimed the lives of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian has concluded that adverse weather conditions were the primary cause of the accident. The General Staff of the Armed Forces, in their final report, ruled out any technical failures or sabotage as contributing factors. Instead, they cited the complex spring weather patterns in the region as the primary reason for the crash. According to the report, the helicopter pilot's iPad revealed accurate flight path information, indicating no deviation from the planned route. The cabin voice recorder and flight data recorder showed no signs of distress or emergency calls from the pilot. Toxicology and pathology tests on the victim bodies found no suspicious substances, and a thorough examination of the helicopter's parts and systems revealed no evidence of sabotage. The results of the investigation will be presented to Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution. And Hollywood heavyweights have never really bothered about the success that the film will garner at the box office. But with streaming technology gaining foothold in millions of homes worldwide, even megastars are now finding their films heading straight to the homes, circumventing the charm of a theatrical release.
Venice Film Festival saw the usual charm and glitz associated with a big Hollywood production. Hollywood heavyweights George Clooney and Brad Pitt put on a show for fans and photographers alike as they premiered their new film Wolves at the Venice Film Festival. But both admit they are disappointed their latest movie is not getting a broad cinematic release and instead heading almost straight on to Apple TV+. Clooney said that television streamers were nevertheless vital to the future of filmmaking, presenting actors with opportunities and generating bigger audiences for their work.
It is a bummer. Of course it's a bummer. But on the other hand, a lot of people are going to see the film, and we are getting a release in, I think a few hundred theaters. So we're getting a release. But yeah, it would have been nicer to have a wider release. That's what we're...
Apple originally signaled it would place the film in a large number of cinemas before the TV release, but instead opted to show it briefly in a restricted number of US movie theaters and then run it on its global TV service.
I think we'll always be romantic about the theatrical experience. At the same time, I love the existence of the streamers because we get to see more story, we get to see more talent. It gets more eyes, so it's a delicate balance right now, and it'll right itself.
Written and directed by John Watts, Wolves is an old-fashioned crime caper with Clooney and Pitt playing lone wolf professional fixers who are forced to work together with comically unfortunate consequences. Wolves is showing out of competition at Venice Film Festival, which runs until September 7. Bureau Report, DD India.
And the streets of a small town in El Salvador burst into flames during an annual festival marking a huge volcanic eruption in 1658. Residents of Nijapa commemorated the eruption by hurling flaming rags soaked in gasoline at each other, while spectators lined the streets cheering on the dramatic showdown. This unique tradition, held annually on August 31st since 1922, draws crowds of locals, visitors and tourists and raises the pulse of all attending. And the iconic Nallur Kandaswamy temple in Sri Lanka's Jaffna has been drawing thousands of devotees for its annual Chariot festival. The main festival, Ther Thiruvizhau, was celebrated yesterday with thousands of devotees pulling the intricately decorated chariot with the idol of Lord Murugan while chanting hymns. Devotees from across the world gathered at the temple to see the temple's primary deity, Murugan, paraded through the streets of Jaffna. The Nallur Kandaswamy temple is a revered Hindu temple dedicated to Lord Murugan, the god of war and victory. The annual Nallur festival, which spans 25 days, features traditional music, dance and art forms passed down through generations. The festival serves as a unifying force, bringing together Tamil communities from various backgrounds. Well, still to come on DD India News Hour, marking 40th anniversary of diplomatic ties between India and Brunei. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on a two-day visit to Brunei starting on the 3rd of September. We'll tell you all about Indian presence at Egypt International Air Show. And today, it's been 1 year since the launch of India's first solar mission, Aditya L1.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Israel's Trade Union Federation calls for general strike on Monday after Gaza hostages found dead. Massive protests sweep Israel as frustration mounts over failure to secure a ceasefire deal. Heavy rain devastates southern India's Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Prime Minister Modi takes stock of the situation in a call to the chief ministers, assures all possible assistance. Big names continue to tumble at the US Open. Defending champion Coco Gauff joins the ever-growing surprise exit list, crashes out to Emma Navarro in a blizzard of mistakes. And in sports, India's Preethi wins bronze in 200-meter T35, becomes first ever Indian female athlete to win 2 medals in track and field event at the Paralympics or Olympics. And moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in Brunei in Darussalam, a Southeast Asian country, on a 2-day visit starting 3rd of September. Brunei Darussalam is a tiny state spread across around 5,000 square kilometers and situated on the northern coast of the island of Borneo along the South China Sea. This will be the first bilateral visit of an Indian Prime Minister to this Southeast Asian country. This visit coincides with 40th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Brunei and is being seen as crucial for India's Act East policy and vision for Indo-Pacific region. Our correspondent Munmun Bhattacharya spoke to Indian High Commissioner Alok Dimri on expectations from PM Modi's visit. Take a listen.
High Commissioner, sir, what will be the engagements of Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the 2 days that he'll be spending here in Brunei Darussalam?
You see, Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji is arriving Brunei Darussalam on 3rd September, and the official day of engagement will be 4th September. His Majesty the King will receive Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji and the official delegation at the Royal Palace, Nurul Iman here in Bandar Seri Begawan. There will be official delegation level talks, there will be restricted talks, and these will be followed by an official luncheon hosted by His Majesty in honor of Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji. Besides, there will also be a brief royal audience that will be with the close family members of His Majesty. Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji is also slated to pay a visit to the most iconic mosque, monument of the Bandar Seri Begawan, the Omar Ali Saifuddin Mosque, established in memory of the late Majesty, His Majesty's father, which is purportedly derives its iconic and architectural inspiration from Taj Mahal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji would also be dedicating the new High Commission Chancery building to the nation. Besides, there will be community engagements upon arrival at the Chancery dedication ceremony, and a community is also expected to receive Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji at the mosque. Besides that, there is a business meeting called on by the business leader on the cards.
Thank you, High Commissioner, sir, for speaking to us. So it's going to be 2 days of too many engagements for Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Brunei Darussalam. With cameraman Kumar Datta, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Bandar Seri Begawan, Brunei Darussalam, for DD India.
And DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya joins us from Brunei. Well, Munmun, this is the first time an Indian Prime Minister is undertaking a bilateral visit to the Sultanate. What is the importance of this visit as far as bilateral relations are concerned?
Right, Lipakshi, as you know and as you said, this is the first ever bilateral visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Brunei Darussalam. This visit is also taking place at a time when both countries are marking 40 years of the diplomatic ties. Before this, Dr. Manmohan Singh had visited this country in 2013, but that was for multilateral summits, that is for the India-ASEAN Summit as well as for East Asia Summit. Now, this country is a monarchy. The monarch here is Sultan Haji Hassan al Bolkiah, and he is one of the longest serving absolute monarchs in the world, and his coronation happened in 1968, so you can imagine that he's been the Sultan of Brunei Darussalam for the last 56 to 57 years, no less. He's been to India 4 times, in 1992, in 2008 and 2012, as well as in 2018, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Sultan Haji have met at least 3 times, in fact, because it was in 2018 when Sultan Haji had witnessed the Republic Day parade on the 26th of January alongside other heads of state and governments of ASEAN member states. Then the meeting had taken place between the two leaders. Besides that, in 2014, they had met for the first time in Naypyidaw in Myanmar. That was on the sidelines of the 25th ASEAN Summit. And then later in 2017 in Manila, Philippines, that was on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit. Having said that, there is a lot of cooperation that is taking place between the two countries in various sectors. Defense cooperation is one, because regular visits take place of Indian naval ships and Coast Guard ships to Brunei shores, and Royal Brunei Navy carries out similar reciprocal visits to Indian shores. Then there are capacity building and training exercises. There's participation of Indian and Brunei defense personnel in each other's defense expositions and defense exhibitions. Besides that, in various physical and online defense courses. So if we look at how various Indian Navy and Indian Coast Guard ships have visited Bruneian shores, we see that this trend started in 2006 when INS Rana and INS Kulish had come to the Bruneian shores, and this has happened as recently as 2024 when in April-May one Coast Guard ship, Samudra Peheredar, and another one, INS Kilton, had come to the Bruneian shores, and there are reciprocal visits from the Bruneian side as well. As far as trade is concerned, India is one of the largest crude oil importers from Brunei Darussalam. We import trade worth $500 to $600 million every year. The focus is now on expanding not just that, but also non-oil trade from the Brunei Darussalam. Also, the ISRO operates a telemetry command and control center from Brunei Darussalam for satellite launches as well as for launch vehicles. So there is a lot of cooperation in terms of space as well. Besides that, there are strong people-to-people contacts. There are 15,000 Indians who live here out of a population of less than 5 lakh. Most of them are skilled work, semi-skilled workers, unskilled workers. But the number of professionals is also rising here, like many doctors, engineers, teachers, health workers, etc. are from India who are living here in Brunei Darussalam. So a lot is expected in terms of cooperation in all these spheres during the Prime Minister's visit.
All right, lots there planned. Thank you so much, Munmun, for all that update from Brunei. And moving on, heavy rainfall continued to wreak havoc across the Indian states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, leading to severe flooding, loss of life and widespread disruption. Both states have been grappling with relentless downpours over the past few days, causing rivers to swell and inundating vast areas, including major cities like Hyderabad and Vijayawada. In response, 9 National Disaster Response Force teams are on the job in Telangana to assist in the rescue operations. Meanwhile, NDRF, along with local police, has been actively involved in rescue and relief operations, relocating affected residents to rehabilitation centres, as Andhra Pradesh has also been severely affected by heavy rainfall. Also, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to Chief Ministers of both southern states and inquired about the situation in the wake of heavy rains and floods. Prime Minister assured all possible assistance from the centre to overcome this challenge. And we have DD India's Suprashanti from Hyderabad joining us on this. Well, Suprashanti, relentless rains in Telangana going on. What is the situation there right now?
Yeah, the situation is really very grim here in Telangana because of the continuous rains for the last 3 days under the influence of depression in the Bay of Bengal. Most of the districts are experiencing heavy to very heavy rains for the last 3 days. Of course, very heavy rains were not there in the last 12 hours, but heavy rains, moderate to heavy rains are there in several districts, including Hyderabad. Even now, it is raining here in Hyderabad. So the government is on high gear and it is monitoring the situation round the clock. Chief Minister Revanth Reddy is holding an emergency meeting with the senior officials in a short while from now, and he is going to discuss the emergency measures that are being taken to safeguard the people who are stranded at several places in Khammam and other districts, and also the relief measures that are going on. After the meeting, the Chief Minister is scheduled to visit Khammam district, which has been severely hit by the heavy rains. He's going to visit the Khammam district by road. He's going there by road, and he's going to see the ongoing relief operations by himself. The situation is really very serious in Khammam district, because even now more than 100 people are stranded in different places over the hillocks and over the roof, and they have some people reached the rooftops to save themselves from the flood waters. 2 Navy helicopters were procured from Visakhapatnam Eastern Naval Command, but they are yet to reach Visakhapatnam because of the inclement weather, because of this ongoing rain. They are in Vijayawada, and they are not able to fly to Khammam. And once the situation gets normal, these 2 helicopters are expected to reach Khammam to safeguard to rescue these victims who are stranded there in different places in the Khammam district. Yeah, in other places also the situation is not smooth, and if you see across the state, so at least 10% are feared washed away at different places in this rain-related incidents. One young woman scientist who works in ICAR Bangalore, she washed away when she was traveling by car to Hyderabad from her hometown Mahabubad district. She was traveling along with her father, and both of them washed away, and their dead bodies were recovered. So in this manner, nearly 10 people are washed away, and
all right, the situation
of course,
is really
there is no
grim.
official statement from the state government.
Right, so Prashanti, thank
Yes.
you so much for all that update from there. And moving on, an inter-ministerial central team has been constituted by the Union Home Ministry to assess damages caused by rainfall and floods in Gujarat. The inter-ministerial central team will shortly visit the flood-affected districts of the state. Gujarat was severely affected by heavy to extremely heavy rainfall during 25th or 30th of August due to a deep depression formed over Rajasthan and Gujarat. Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan were also affected by heavy to very heavy rainfall. During the year, Himachal Pradesh has also been affected by various spells of heavy rainfall, cloudburst and landslides. In a statement, the Home Ministry said it is in touch with senior officers of these states and will depute an inter-ministerial central team there, as well if severe damages are reported by them. During this year, the Home Ministry has constituted IMCTs that have visited the flood and landslide affected states of Assam, Kerala, Mizoram and Tripura in advance for on-the-spot assessment of the damages without waiting for their memorandum. IMCT for Nagaland has also been constituted, which will visit the affected areas of the state shortly. And Bharatiya Janata Party will begin its membership drive from today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch the drive, getting the certificate for the renewal of his membership from party president. All existing members will need to renew their membership. According to BJP's constitution, membership drives are conducted afresh every 5 to 6 years. The drive will be held in phases from today till 31st of October, with the first phase of the primary membership concluding on the 25th of September. Individuals can sign up through a missed call on 8800002024 or on the party's website or other digital platforms. And the Indian Air Force renowned helicopter display team Sarang is set to grace the skies of Egypt as part of the inaugural Egyptian International Air Show scheduled to take place from September 3rd to 5th, 2024 in El Alminian. Joining a host of international participants, Sarang will showcase its world-class aerial maneuvers and contribute to the event's global appeal. Sarang will treat spectators to a mesmerizing display featuring 5 Dhruv advanced light helicopters, a symbol of the Indian Air Force. Sarang has captivated audiences worldwide with its breathtaking performances and operational excellence. Established in 2003 and making its international debut at the Asian Aerospace Show in Singapore in 2004, the team has amassed an impressive record of over 1,200 displays across 385 venues globally. And the launch of India's solar mission Aditya L1 completes 1 year today. India's first solar observatory mission Aditya L1 was launched on September 2nd, 2023 and inserted into its targeted halo orbit on January 6th, 2024. Let's take a look at its journey so far. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya gets us more on this.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
India's first solar mission, Aditya L1, embarked on its journey to the Sun, Earth L1 point on September 2nd last year. This July, it successfully completed its first halo orbit around the L1 point, located approximately 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. Aditya L1 reached this crucial point on January 6 this year, just 127 days after its launch. The mission began collecting scientific data on September 18th last year, marking a significant milestone in solar research. One of the mission's key instruments, the high-energy L1 orbiting X-ray spectrometer, recorded the first impulsive phase of solar flares in November. Since then, there has been no looking back. The Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, or SUIT, and the Visible Emission Line coronagraph captured dynamic activities of the Sun in May this year, including several X-class and M-class flares associated with coronal mass ejection, which can lead to significant geomagnetic storms on Earth. Aditya L1 is designed to place a satellite in hollow orbit around Sun, the Earth L1 point, where the gravitational forces of the Earth and Sun balance with the satellite's centripetal force. This unique position allows scientists to study solar particles and phenomena which are crucial for space weather forecasting. Early detection of solar activities provide advanced warnings to protect satellites, power grids, and communication systems on Earth. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Now. Conscious over the size of the rate cut this month, Asian share markets begin with a quiet start on Monday. India's NISSAD Kumar bagged silver in men's high jump T47 in Paris Paralympics. And we'll show you glimpses of Venice Cultural Festival. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. I'm Lipakshi Kurana and on to some markets news now. Asian share markets got off to a quiet start on Monday as investors braced for a data-packed week, culminating in a US jobs report that could decide whether a rate cut expected this month will be regular or super-sized. Those risks kept investors cautious and S&P 500 dipped 0.1%, while NASDAQ futures eased by 0.2%. Rise underpinned the US dollar that rallied 1.2% last week. The euro was stuck after losing 1.3% last week with political uncertainty in Germany. And US dollar climbed to a two-week top against the euro on Monday as traders paired bets for aggressive policy easing by the Federal Reserve, with the focus now moving to a crucial US jobs report at the end of this week. The dollar advanced to its strongest since 21st of August on the yen, buoyed by a rise in long-term treasury yields, reducing the imperative for the Fed to cut interest rates. The euro slipped slightly to $1.043, the lowest since 19th of August. And around 10,000 US hotel workers have launched a multi-day strike in several major cities, including San Francisco, Honolulu and Boston. The Unite We're Here union representing these workers announced the strike after prolonged contract negotiations with Marriott, Hilton and Hyatt broke down. Workers demand better conditions, criticizing hotel chains for prioritizing profits over guest services and worker commitments. With 40,000 workers across 20 cities facing expiring contracts and ongoing talks since May, the strike could affect Labour Day travel, which has surged by 9% this year. Both Hilton and Hyatt vow to negotiate fairly, with Hyatt planning to minimise operational disruptions. Travellers are urged to cancel stays at striking hotels and seek refunds. Well, you're watching the India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. First, let's take a look at all updates from Paris Paralympics. Well, India's Preethi created history on Sunday as she clinched the bronze medal in 200-meter T35 race. The 23-year-old became the first ever Indian female athlete to win 2 medals in track and field event at the Paralympics or Olympics, recording a personal best timing of 30.01 seconds. T35 classification is meant for athletes who have coordination impairments such as hypotonia, ataxia and athetosis. On Friday, she had clinched India's first athletics medal in a Paralympic track event, winning a bronze in the women's T35 100-meter competition with a personal best time of 14.21 seconds. Also, Indian President Draupadi Murmu congratulated the para-athlete on social media platform X for her historic feat. She said, and I quote, "Congratulations to Preethi Pal on winning bronze medal in women's 200-meter T35 event of the Paris Paralympics. After her 100-meter bronze, this is her second medal in the Paris Paralympics, an exceptional achievement. Both para-athletics medals for India have been won by her. India is proud of her. Draped in tricolour, her victorious images have electrified sports lovers. May she strengthen sports culture among the youth and win greater accolades for India." Also, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Preethi on a special achievement. He said, "A historic achievement by Preethi Pal as she wins a second medal in the same edition of the Paralympics 2024 with a bronze in the women's 200-meter T35 event. She is an inspiration for the people of India. Her dedication is truly remarkable." And another Indian para-athlete, NISSAD Kumar, produced a brilliant performance to clinch a silver medal in men's high jump T47 event at the Paris Paralympics, taking India's overall medal tally to 7. T47 is meant for competitors with a below elbow or wrist amputation or impairment. Nishad's highest jump at the event was 2.04 meters, which was also his season's best. USA's Roderick Townsend won the gold medal with the highest jump of 2.12 meters, while Georgie Margeev, representing the neutral Paralympic athletes, took the bronze medal at 2 meters. Nishad had also won a silver in Tokyo Paralympics 3 years ago. Also, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the para-athlete on social media platform for his remarkable feat. He said, and I quote, "Congrats to NISSAD Kumar for his remarkable achievement in winning a silver medal in the men's high jump T47 event at the Paralympics 2024. He has shown us all that with passion and determination, everything is possible. India is elated." And now let's look at the medal tally at Paris Paralympics. So far, China leads the medal tally with 33 gold, 27 silver and 11 bronze. It's followed by Great Britain with 23 gold, 12 silver and 8 bronze, while United States is at third position with 8 gold, 11 silver and 8 bronze. Meanwhile, talking about India, it's at the 27th position with 1 gold, 2 silver and 4 bronze medals. And in US Open, third seed Coco Gauff produced a disjointed performance on Sunday to lose 6-3, 4-6, 6-3 to fellow American and 13th seed Emma Navarro. Gauff hit 19 double faults with 3 in the final game, helping secure victory for Navarro and send her into a first US Open quarter-final. Gauff's defeat will see her drop out of the top 5 in the world rankings. The 20-year-old's exit means Serena Williams remains the last woman to successfully defend the US Open title back in 2014. Meanwhile, Navarro's will next play Spain's 26th seed Paula Badosa in the quarterfinals on Tuesday. And now let's take you to Italy. Traditional Italian boats and gondolas paraded down Venice's Grand Canal over the weekend for the city's annual historical regatta. The regatta has always been extremely popular with both Venetians and visitors. This unique sport has been practiced in the Venetian lagoon for thousands of years, and today it is particularly well known for the spectacular historical water pageant that precedes the race. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.